Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today we are listening to 2020, The Wave of Deceit.
How Laura would come off to people was from the old sitcom Three's Company as Prissy, the bubbly, bleach blonde. She had told me for her it was love at first sight. We met each other at a time in our life where our marriages were falling apart. What is it with marrying all these men? She wanted it to just be us. We're going to be together forever, and you're not going to be with anyone else ever. I was so wrapped up and tangled up in all of this that so many red flags escaped me. I blame him. I do blame him. He knew about her past. This case involves a love triangle. There's anger, there's resentment, and it's no surprise that somebody wound up dead. Okay. This is the first interview you've done, right? Flawless? Yes, and now is the right time to do it. This is Laura Day, once a soccer mom and a wife, now behind bars, accused of an unthinkable crime that she says she did not commit. How would you describe your life before you got here? I lived in paradise. And then it all came crashing down. Correct. Yes. Corpus Christi, South Texas. It's the hometown of Selena, the queen of Tejano music. And just across the water from her statue is North Padre Island. What's this island like? Well, you can see it's not a bad place to live. Corpus is a nice town. It's a fairly good-sized town, but everybody kind of knows everyone. Well, it's probably the biggest little small town there is. I did not live anywhere else. When you cross that bridge from your long day at work, you feel like you just naturally take a deep breath and you're on vacation. I worked hard for everything. Palm trees, sunsets. It was beautiful. It's kind of the whole island life, the flip-flops, the shorts, the shirt, just pretty casual. It's just a whole different lifestyle over there. Who is this one? That's me way back in the 90s. The good old days. I was a bikini model. Laura was a very visible character on the island because, she just kind of stood out a bit. Did a lot of bikini contests and also worked for an agency. But I gave it all up and decided to settle down and fell in love with an Englishman. Laura moved to Corpus Christi in 1997 with British-born Bill Day. The next year, they married and their son Cameron is born. I got to meet Laura through a mom and Codsworth for stay-at-home island mommies at the time, which I was, and she just had a very, very kind of a commanding presence. I think that's the best way to describe it. She was going to be noticed in the group. She was very friendly, very demonstrative. She was an attractive lady, very personable. She was a good mother. She was very devoted to Cameron. I would see them with their son, she and her husband Phil, and just very devoted. Did not miss soccer practice, did not miss games, and just basically a kind of a happy suburban couple. Laura wasn't your typical soccer mom. She and her family were enjoying the high life in their palatial mansion, reachable by boat. That's the house right there. That's it right there. What's it like inside? It was pretty impressive. If you like Greek pillars and marble and that sort of thing. Did she have any close women friends? No, I often thought she was lonely. heart-of-night connections with other women. She would want to become your friend very, very quickly. Sometimes that can be a little off-putting.
You said that you didn't know whether she was being friendly or flirting with you. Maybe it was a little bit of both. She didn't get along with a lot of women, you say, but how about the men?
Men being visual creatures, I'm sure didn't necessarily have a problem with Laura.
Laura would soon cross paths with another family, the Syrians, David, White Kelly, her son Sebastian, and 5-year-old Taylor.
That was pretty good. Kelly, she had a son already. That was Sebastian. He was a good little boy, and it was kind of like being a dad to him.
Tell me about Taylor.
He was big personality, fearless,
Brave.
Not afraid of water at all. He loved the water.
The first time we took him to a big pool, his expression was, big bathtub.
We were at my sister's house, running a bath for his cousin, and the next thing you know,
he's fully clothed, sitting in the water. Okay.
Taylor was David's mimic. When he was with his dad, whatever his dad was doing, that's what he wanted to be doing.
David was driving a fuel truck, putting him on the road for long stretches of time.
I was gone quite a bit, especially in the early years. I'd be gone for a week or two, sometimes at a time. Kelly and I, had moments where things were good, and then we would have long periods of things where I was unhappy.
In 2010, he starts driving for a new company with better hours.
They offered me home every night, 2 days off, and I was like, man, that's perfect. But then things with Kelly and I got worse again. And that was kind of about the time that I met Laura.
I did tell my ex, don't bring everybody around Taylor that you're dating.
For her, it was love at first sight, and I was definitely attracted to her.
And his first weekend to pick Taylor up, he brought that woman.
David Searing has been with his new company for just over a year when a new sales rep joins the team, Laura Day.
My opinion of how Laura would come off to people, or how she came off to me, was from the old sitcom, Three's Company, Miss Prissy, the bubbly, bleach blonde.
Is it gone?
Yeah, everything's all right.
No, it isn't.
What do you mean?
You don't like cake.
That's kind of the stereotype she came off to me as.
She was attractive. I mean, everybody noticed her. She did good as a sales rep, just with her personality.
And then you met David Searing.
Yeah, we met each other at a time in our life where our marriages were falling apart. And so just kind of fell in love.
I was going through a rough patch with Kelly, and Laura was very friendly. She was married too. She would explain to me the issues that she had in her marriage, and it seemed as though neither one of us were really happy with our spouse.
What attracted you to David in the first place?
He was kind. He was fun. We had a lot in common.
What was the attraction?
She didn't act her age. She acted, if anything, probably younger than me.
She was 10 years older than you.
12 years, actually.
When David and Laura started dating, I was worried that David was giving up something for something that may not really be what it was.
How did it become a full-blown affair?
I don't know, things just happened so fast. It was one thing led to another.
I thought Laura was more about making making sure that she was getting what she wanted. It was more about her than about him. That's kind of how I thought personally about it. You know, you give somebody some attention that's not used to getting attention, and they will bend over backwards to do whatever you want them to do. And I always thought Laura was that type of person.
It's around the beginning of the new year when David reveals to his wife Kelly that he's been having an affair. And by May 2012, their marriage is over. How acrimonious was the divorce between you and David?
It was not easy. I was still very much in love with him. I was very angry.
How was Taylor affected by the divorce?
He was heartbroken.
What did he say?
He just started crying. He just sat in my lap. And we tried to reassure him that, both love you very much. That's never going to change.
At the time Laura begins dating David's parents, her son Cameron is very much in the picture. And at a certain point, Laura's relationship with Cameron becomes strained.
She says that you're going to live with your father, Philip Dead, who really did live very far away. But it left her with David alone in the house.
Barely a few months after the divorces are finalized, David and Laura visit the wedding capital of the world, Las Vegas. Got married in Vegas. What was your hope?
Oh, it was fun. It was like, let's just go to Vegas and get married,
You got divorced. And then married pretty quickly. Divorced in May of 2012.
Correct.
And then married in August 2012. 3 months later.
Yes. Now, part of that was in my divorce decree, Kelly had wanted it to be put in there that there was to be no overnight guests I wasn't married to around Taylor.
He had a morality clause in his divorce. That meant that Taylor couldn't spend the night if I was in the house, which kind of rushed our marriage along. Taylor was at a very, very sensitive age of 6. So it's perfectly understandable that Kelly would say, look, not until you're ready to introduce a woman who's actually your wife. I do not want to confuse my son further.
I mean, we felt like we wanted to get married. Maybe not quite that soon, but I wanted Taylor to be able to be around Laura and Laura to be around him.
What was Taylor like?
Oh, very adventurous, and he had no fear. Okay, go. We had a big pool in the backyard. Woo! Awesome!
I guess he was learning to swim.
He knew how to swim. We taught him, and he was a pretty good swimmer. Say hi, everybody! Hi, everybody!
He was learning to swim a little too quick for my taste.
I recorded it so your mommy can see it, your grandpa, everybody.
He loved the water, and it was a little scary how fast he was going with it.
You want to do another one? Okay, one minute.
And then I always made sure that he had a life jacket on.
But he left.
He loved the water, and he loved the pool.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It is a beautiful house. Where do you think Laura got the money?
She told me of some internet businesses, selling images and whatnot.
Well, there were stories in this neighborhood of filming going on of adult-oriented productions.
Looking back, the theatrical elements to their home kind of lends itself to the movie set, right? But it was a rumor that was always around.
I heard that some adult films were made.
Not by us, but I did own an adult content business, and I purchased images and some films from professional photographers, and we sold it on the internet, and we made a really good living at it.
But you weren't in those videos.
Said hello.
Yeah. I never met her in person.
Never did.
Mm-mm.
You were the mother of his baby.
I didn't handle things properly with the way our relationship ended, but there was issues because it seemed like Kelly wanted to make it hard, especially for Laura. Kelly did not want Laura picking Taylor up from school. Laura was fighting, saying that, hey, you need to let her know that I am going to be picking him up from school.
What did you think of his wife, Kelly?
I really didn't get a chance or an opportunity to get to know her better. I wanted to.
You're caught in the middle.
Yes. And Laura was afraid that, given my close bondness to Taylor, that I would eventually one day maybe go back to Kelly.
You weren't worried that Taylor would bring his parents back together again?
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, David hired an attorney, and we both did, to get full custody of Taylor.
David claims that there was a dispute over his medical care that prompted David and Laura to try to get full custody over Taylor.
We'd been instructed that it was going to be hard to try to get grounds that were serious enough to get custody.
Laura knew that Taylor was David's world. Regardless of what else happened, Taylor was David's world.
I was very secure in my relationship with David at the time. I was not jealous of anybody.
You love me more than you love Kelly?
Despite, me telling her over and over that, I was there with her. She wanted to just be honest.
So there you go. David and Laura have been married for 2 months and are adjusting to life as a new family, with little Taylor visiting on the weekends.
It almost seemed perfect at first. We both cared for each other. We were making sure that each other was happy.
As a stepmom, what was Laura like for Taylor?
She seemed to care for him like he was her own. They would bake cookies together. She was always trying to think of things to do as a family.
We went everywhere together. Movies, Chuck E. Cheese. I took him to Taekwondo and we did everything.
We talked of, what we would do for Taylor to give him a better life.
I had a bright future for him. We even talked about saving money and putting away for college like I did my own son. So we had high hopes.
You loved this little boy.
Yes.
Tell me about that tragic day, October 5th, 2012.
Right.
How did it begin? What happened?
It began on a Friday, and picked Taylor up from school, and we didn't have any set plans as to what to do because with that Friday, Daddy's still at work. What would you like to do? He said he wanted to have a picnic on the beach.
It was to be my weekend with Taylor. Laura, from my understanding, was going to pick him up.
I had sole custody. He got him every other weekend. I started thinking, because he and his dad wanted to pick him up. So I agreed that he could have him that Friday.
So Laura picked him up from school. They, maybe
might take him to the beach.
She had mentioned going to McDonald's and getting him a Happy Meal, but never to the beach.
We went home, got the beach gear, and we just went across the street to the beach in my car, and I couldn't believe it. The beach was so packed for Friday. My first thought was, don't these people work? So I went down quite a ways.
They went far away just so that there be less people.
To less people because it was really crowded, and to get our own space on the beach. When we stopped, even though there were people over to my left that were fishing, a couple, they had a dog, and the dog wasn't on a leash. So I said, let's go down a little further.
Did you plan to put him in the water?
He wanted to go swimming.
He wanted to go.
Yes, he wanted to go to the beach. That was his idea. Because I personally never saw him swim on the beach, I made him wear my jacket. And when I did that, he complained about it rubbing on the back of his neck. It was giving him a rash, clearly. I said, if you can show me that you're okay and you feel safe enough to dive under the waves, and you feel comfortable, then I'll let you swim and, play in the beach in the shallow water without your life jacket. So I went in the water with him the first time to make sure that he was okay. And he was swimming, having a good time, going diving under the waves, what kids do. Anyway, so as soon as I felt comfortable with him being alone, I went back right to the water's edge.
How far out did he go?
I don't know exactly, but you can go out far before the water gets deep. And just a few minutes later, something pulled him out, sucked him under. At first, I didn't understand. I thought maybe he dived under the wave and he was swimming. But then I realized he didn't surface. And I ran in the water to where he was. He was gone. And then I saw him floating face down.
He came up again.
Yes, he was floating face down a ways away from me where I was. And I ran up to him.
Were you yelling? Calling for help?
I screamed his name. And I turned him over. And there was no life in him. He wasn't breathing. And all I thought was that I had to give him air. So I gave him air in the water while I was had him in my arms. And he was lifeless. So I took him back to the beach. But I panicked. And I tried to get the water out of his lungs and it just wasn't coming out. I didn't know why.
But you knew CPR. Why you doing it?
I panicked and I was disoriented. I wasn't thinking clearly.
And that panic caused you to take off.
Go straight to the hospital. Yes.
I was born and raised in South Texas, and I remember coming here as a child, and I remember being warned about the undertows and the power of the riptide. You see the power of those waves. Anything can happen.
I was headed home, and I hadn't heard from Laura for a while, and that was unusual. And so I tried calling her, and several phone calls, no answer. Finally, a nurse answers the phone, and I heard the frightening words, "It's Taylor."
Wave of Deceit. I wonder what happened. Did she do it purposely? I mean, take him to the beach to get rid of him?
first call was to Kelly to let her know to get to the hospital immediately.
After about 20 minutes, Laura arrives at the hospital with Taylor. She came in screaming that she needed help, and then everybody went and tried to get the patient inside. We immediately started to try to resuscitate. He did not have a pulse, and he did not have spontaneous respiration. We got the brain injury as quickly as possible and put IV access to get medications.
When I walked into the hospital, I could clearly see the doctors trying to resuscitate him.
Doing everything you can and knowing that you're not going to have a good outcome is it's a very sad situation.
At the hospital, they tried to revive him, but he was already gone, laying there, lifeless, blue, grayish blue. As soon as I saw him, I knew he was gone.
So in the back of my head, I may have known, but my mind would not let me believe that I had just lost my boy.
She's standing there, just not doing anything. Not crying, nothing. Just standing there. She didn't want to be there. And all I could do was just cry. Just lay my head on my son's and just cry.
He was gone. And she just stood there.
I don't remember exactly where Miss Day was. I know I talked to her at one point to get a history of what happened.
And I was still very confused, disoriented, and still very hysterical and upset, and not thinking clearly.
She told me just that he drowned, and she found him and put him in the car and drove him in. She didn't have a lot of emotion on her face, but sometimes people can be reacting to horrible news or horrible situation, and that's the way they react.
We had a little get together of family members. I don't recall her being involved in it. She was pretty well trying to stay away from Kelly because Kelly was screaming and yelling at Laura from across the lobby area.
When I got to the hospital, I thought that Taylor had been with Kelly, and I asked Laura, I said, where were Kelly and Taylor at? And she goes, oh no, Paul, he was with me. And before I even said anything, the police officer that was standing there told me, he said I shouldn't have any conversation. So I went back across the parking lot, and I noticed that they had another police officer in Laura's vehicle taking pictures and video inside of her Toyota. I started thinking, okay, this is kind of weird. If it's an accident, why would I not be able to console or talk to friends of mine? And why are they taking all these pictures and videos? And why is that cop continuously just standing there? I remember it so well because I don't remember a drowning patient coming in out of a. They always came in by EMS.
That hospital you took him to, though, was 12 miles away.
It was the closest hospital to the beach.
There was a firehouse nearby. With EMS technicians that maybe they could have reminded or tried to.
Perhaps, possibly, but when it comes to saving somebody's life, do you really think of a fire department? Do you?
If he was lifeless when she pulled him from the water, you can't waste all that time driving when you could be doing resuscitation. If the brain is not receiving oxygen after about 4 to 6 minutes, then you have brain was going to survive after that drive.
So on Friday, October 5th, I received a call from Detective Pena. She reached out to me to say, I'm here at Bay Area Hospital. There's a young boy who's drowned, and I just don't have a good feeling about this. And she said, I want to take Laura Day and David Searing to the main station, and I want to interview them. And I said, if you have a bad feeling, then do what you need to do.
I still remember that drive. I prayed to God. I was praying. And I said, I don't care, be it God or the devil. I don't care what happens to me, my eternal soul. Please, don't let this be reality.
On the night when David Searing was interviewed,
There's no question in your mind that she would do anything to hurt him and already.
he said several things
You're talented.
during the interview that were interesting.
She didn't have an answer.
Tragedy has hit the close-knit community of Corpus Christi with the death of 6-year-old Taylor Searing. She was brave.
Brave, humble, caring, full of life. When I dropped him off at school, I would play a game with him. Give me a hug and kiss, and then I would, oh wait, I need my hug and kiss. And the last day, he did it to me. Because I need my hug and kiss, Mom. Okay. Oh, Mom, I need my hug and kiss.
On October 5th. That was the last she saw him. That evening, David, Kelly, and Laura are interviewed by the police.
My name is Detective Bennett. I'm also his partner, Detective Kelsey, and this is normal procedure.
I'll start off, I'm very sorry for what you're having to go through. I just assumed that this was kind of just routine and wanted to be able to help any way I could just to make sure that they had all the information that they needed.
It is not unusual for the parents to be brought in for questioning. You have a 6-year-old who is dead, and they need to understand the circumstances of his death.
Sitting off camera, Taylor's mother, Kelly, is distraught.
Do you have any questions for me?
Did anybody tell you you were in custody?
No, but I felt like I was.
And what about David? How many children for David? I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
There were crying type noises, but no evidence that there were any tears. And she had to be asked to repeat herself quite a bit when answering questions.
At one point, the detective had to say, look at me, look at me. She has a long blonde hair, and it's covering her face. And it's like, wait a second, we got to get through this. We got to push through this for Taylor's sake.
If the police thought you weren't crying, what do you tell them?
The nerve of them.
How many children did he have? Is his childhood?
They knew I was crying. David knew I was crying.
And the reason I'm asking some of this stuff is I want to get an idea of the family dynamics and what's going on in y'all's lives. I told them the difficulties we were having with Laura, Kelly, and trying to get custody of Taylor. How's the relationship with you and Kelly? Not good. Tonight or before. First thing
was a certified lifeguard and diver, Laura Day. Really? And that little boy drowned? I mean, what were you thinking? And you had taken the life jacket off of him?
I would say overall, I didn't have any specific red flags for the interview, but nonetheless, it was interesting because when Detective Ilse would ask questions, you would see that she would look up and make eye contact with him when she answered, but she wasn't doing that for Detective Penny. However, when David Searing was interviewed at the police station, he said several things during the interview that were interesting.
You told the police, I believe it was an accident, but I want to know the truth.
Yes, I said if you find out anything, if you find out otherwise, if it's not an accident, I want to know. The reason I say this is because I want to know for certain. I know that Laura was extremely talented. She was afraid that one day I would try to get back with her. There's no chance that I would.
Oh, the girlfriend was, oh well, that became the wife, was very jealous of the ex-wife. Okay? Oh, now you're saying maybe you should have called 911? Yeah, if you had a cell phone, and we see that you did.
It wasn't that I was really searching for something on Laura. I was just curious to see what it would say. Her name is Laura Price. It's her birth name. And when all these charges popped up, I was just like, wow, what is this?
Oh, wow. She shot and killed her boyfriend.
Said that she had a previous murder charge. I was shocked. I was like, this can't be the Laura that I know.
Wow.
How would you describe your life before you got here?
I lived in paradise.
It almost seemed perfect at first.
Laura was more about getting what she wanted.
She knew that I would never leave Taylor. She knew that that bond was there.
Tell me about that tragic day.
There was no life in him.
But you received the heart. Why not do that?
I panicked.
She had a previous murder charge, and the husband didn't know.
I don't care if God or the devil don't let this be reality. Then my son is not here.
This is partly his fault. He knew about her past.
Oh, he knew.
A series of crimes, including
Theft, fraud, and murder. I discovered it that week. By the weekend, my son was dead.
Oh wow.
Corpus Christi is a beautiful place. Bob Hall Pier is a very popular area. Waterways, put your boat in the water, go fishing. A lot of things going for Corpus Christi. I see the parents out here with other children. They're all very close. Just can't imagine letting a child wander off that far. It's like the third wave out there coming in. That's how far the little boy, Taylor,
Oh wow.
was from Laura. Tragically, for David and Kelly Siri, this stretch of beach south of Bob Hall Pier has become a place of nightmares.
That was always one of my biggest fears of him drowning. I couldn't explain it. I just always had that fear, and I was always extra cautious anytime he was around the water.
David, Kelly, and Laura are interviewed at the Corpus Christi Police Department before returning to their homes later that night.
But at this point, no charges have been filed.
It was an interview to figure out what happened because Laura really, in essence, was the only witness that they were aware of at the time.
It was just a tragic accident.
That night, I lost what was most important to me, and I wasn't really in the mood to be talking. My life just didn't seem to matter anymore without that. The thought of going on without that.
As soon as I saw him,
But Taylor's tragic death is not David's only concern.
Did an internet search after we were married. Talked to her at her name. Her name's Laura Fight, that's her birthplace. A week before Taylor died, David is doing an internet search looking for information that might be helpful concerning the custody dispute with Kelly when he comes across information concerning Laura.
Laura's name was connected to a series of crimes and murder.
I discovered it that week while I was working, and by the weekend, my son was dead. I told her what I found. I said, murder. She goes, I don't know. That's not me. She assured me that this was not her. And there were things in there that I knew were obviously wrong because it said that she was Middle Eastern. So I took her word for it. Laura did ask me what I had told the police. And when I told the police what I had discovered about her past, she was just like, I can't believe you would tell them that. And I told her, I said, I had nothing to hide. And I didn't think that you did either. And she gave me an explanation as to these circumstances and gave me explanations that seemed believable and plausible. And I believed her.
Maybe he just didn't want to know too much, but he does confront her with that, and she denied it.
But it turns out it was her. 30 years ago, Laura was living in another paradise. This one in California. Laguna Beach.
Laguna Beach is one of the beautiful places in California. Really kind of cool mixture of surfers, surf community. You get a lot of artists. Everybody's hanging out together. It's hard to complain about anything when you have the most related first stuff.
In May 1982, Laura was 17 years old, and she was named Laura Feist at the time. That was her maiden name.
Laura has already left home and is dating 21-year-old college student James Kendall. James, also known as Jim, is a local boy from a well-respected family.
Now, though things started off pretty good, it would end tragically.
I'm Jason Kravitz. I'm a retired police captain with the Laguna Beach Police Department. Laura and Jim spent the night at Jim Kendall's house in Laguna Beach. Jim had told her the night before that he, quote, didn't want to go steady anymore and wanted to break up and see other women.
But what he tells Laura he wants out, things go horribly wrong.
He, the next morning, drives her to her home to get a change of clothes so she can go to high school. So Laura got out of the truck and she's walking this direction across Legion Street. And she goes over to where she lived. The landlord kept a handgun inside of his home. She knew that. She steals the handgun. She goes back over to the truck where Jim is inside smoking and listening to the radio. The passenger door's open. He must have seen the guy at the last minute. But she fires, shoots him. After she fired the gun, he says, "You shot me." And she responded back to him, "Yeah, I did."
She apparently decided that she didn't want him to go on living without her. She didn't want to live without him.
That's when she fired the round into her own chest.
This would not be the last time that Laura's passionate self-interest would turn other people's lives upside down.
I have loved her. My whole life.
What is it with Mary?
It's a long story. Laura was 17 years old and she had a boyfriend, James Kendall. James was breaking up with her and she was not happy about it. And how did she deal with this? She shot him. She has maybe a warped sense of relationships.
It's 1982, Orange County in California. Officers have arrived at the scene of the shooting.
The male victim was already in grave condition. He had suffered a gunshot through the middle of the chest and wasn't speaking. She was.
Rather than shooting herself in the chest or shooting herself in the head, she ends up shooting herself in the shoulder. So it's really almost like a superficial wound.
We found a card inside the car from a local jeweler. She wrote on the card that she wanted Jim and herself buried together and that everything she owned should go to her mother. She told the investigators that while he was driving her to this location from his house that morning, she was writing that note. Essentially, she's writing a murder-suicide note with a man that's driving her where he thinks to change and go to school. Well, she's planning out this whole attack and assault on him.
But this is how despondent, apparently, or angry she was at the idea that her boyfriend would break up with her.
But as things settle down and she realizes that she's going to survive this gunshot wound, she's in jeopardy of potentially spending the rest of her life in California State Prison. Her story begins to change, and the story turns into her effectively being a victim of abuse.
She told us that he claimed he was going to kill himself.
And it reached a point where every time she opened her mouth, the story changed significantly.
She tells investigators that she was acting in self-defense.
One of them had to do with possibly being battered by him.
These various claims were all dismissed pretty quickly.
There was no indication that he was anything other than a very nice young man who picked the wrong person to date.
Laura pleads guilty to second-degree murder in the death of James Kendall.
You were just 17 years old in California. You were convicted of shooting your boyfriend, killing your boyfriend, James Kendall.
I'm not supposed to talk about that.
No.
My attorney told me not to.
And then the judge made the decision that it would be appropriate to sentence her to the California Youth Authority rather than to prison. An opportunity not given to many people to demonstrate that she could change and that she could salvage her life. But while in jail at just 18 years old, Laura meets another inmate 2 years younger than her and falls in love again.
So we were in the youth authority together for 2.5 years. I fell in love with her the way only a teenage boy can fall in love with a woman who would eventually become a serious model. She was so beautiful, so far outside of my
idea of the girl that I was going to get that I was just completely immersed in love with her.
In 1987, Laura came up for parole and after serving only 5 years of her sentence, was released from the California Youth Authority.
Wow.
Laura and I got married in Tijuana, Mexico. It was crazy, but it was awesome. Every thought I had included Laura Lee. She dazed me. When she would just come over and hold my hand with her soft little fingers, oh my gosh, I couldn't think for an hour. However, she could see that I was messed up. And to her credit, Laura said, I can't be with you. You're going to bring me down. You're ruining your life. You're not ruining mine too. I have loved her my whole life.
And then she has east and continues her life of crime.
In the years leading up to her meeting David Searing, Laura would change her name several times and she would also remarry 3 times.
She accumulates this laundry list of various accusations and various convictions over the years,
including theft, fraud, burglary, bigamy. In 1993, bigamy. What is it with marrying a bigamy? How many times have you been married?
Several.
5.
Yeah, well, if you're not supposed to count the annulment, right? And then the one in Mexico, it didn't really count because I was told we needed to register it here in the United States, and we never did.
For more than a decade, between husbands 4 and 5, Laura manages to stay out of trouble.
4 or 5 husbands.
But
Okay.
now, in October 2012, all of that is about to change again.
And all those different names?
When a witness comes forward saying he was on the beach with Laura on the day that Taylor drowned.
Oh, so she had someone there, a man. She was married. Supposed to be watching that little boy.
All I could do was just lay my head on my side.
It's just in my mind very vividly. It haunted me and it continues to. Laura has been interviewed by the Corpus Christi police, but despite being allowed to return home, the investigators still have suspicions about her.
We went through Florida Day statements. The detail that first really caught my attention and concerned me was the location where she chose to take a 6-year-old boy for a picnic on a beach.
She says when she gets to the beach, she sees that it's kind of crowded.
So she went south. It gets pretty desolate out there. And it made no sense to me at all that she would take a young boy for a picnic in an area where no one else is around, especially when the spot at which she entered the beach, there were actually several picnic tables. She did not administer CPR to the child after he had drowned. She did not call 911. She did not ask for anyone around her on the beach to help.
She just takes Taylor and puts him in the car. And then she drives essentially 12 miles to a hospital.
that is a textbook example of child endangerment or criminal negligence.
Detective Pena sought a warrant for Laura Day's arrest on those charges.
They asked Laura to come to the police department. I was going to go with her, and she said no. She had given me a few pieces of her jewelry that she didn't want to take with her. And I remember thinking that was a little odd.
And Laura Day was arrested on that day.
You did nothing wrong.
No, I didn't. I mean, this is just it's sad that I panicked. I thought I'd stay.
may have had some questions or doubts. I couldn't see it as anything other than an accident, especially the way she described the events.
It was shocking. Nothing that she exhibited indicated that there was anything other than this kind of suburban mom.
Bond is set at $50,000, and Laura posts it less than 24 hours after her arrest. She's back at home with David.
Laura was just trying to get back to life as usual, trying to figure out whatever it would take to keep me happy, talking about the possibility of us packing up and moving and going to Florida, trying to get me to get past my feelings, trying to get me back to acting normal, which seemed a little strange to me. I mean, just so sudden.
Local Corpus Christi news station KIII continues to cover the story.
If it helps trigger your memory, police say the stepmother and the child were in a white Toyota FJ Cruiser that night. Did our best to cover it as best we could from both the standpoint of Kelly and the police department.
All the warning signs all over that area where they went, and then plus she went almost to a secluded area.
The man made contact with the Corpus Christi Police Department, saying he had information about this case.
You came today for what reason?
Uh-oh, a witness.
Was a huge gap for the prosecution because he is really their only witness.
The most upsetting, troubling, telling thing that Renee Ruiz said is that she ultimately left the beach. Now, remember, according to her, she has a dying boy in the back of her car. She waved and smiled at him as she drove off the beach.
It's November 2012, and Laura has been living at home under strict bond conditions for nearly a month.
Part of her bond requirements was that she was not allowed to be around young children, churches, malls.
So she tells David, I want to go to the mall. And David says, we can't go to the mall. You're on the bond. This is a condition of your bond.
She decides to thumb her nose at that. She puts on a wig and is incognito and heads to the mall.
Oh, she didn't have one of those ankle bracelets on?
Risk breaking the bond conditions.
Well, it was not her what he did. Detective Amy is working off duty at the mall. She sees a woman who is consistent with Morgan's body type next to David's hearing. Now, it's 16 in the morning. Laura is wearing a wig like a Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction.
You can't make this stuff up.
On December 4th, 2012, her bond was revoked. Laura was back in jail.
If things are starting to look pretty bad for Laura, they're about to get worse.
Put it together for her and try to do anyone else ever.
So we started listening to calls.
I'm glad everybody's gone. Just you out of jail.
Oh, wow. Wow. She didn't just say that. She did. It's just you and me now? Okay. Makes you think. She's talking to the daddy.
Was now back in jail because she violated her bond of her.
It certainly was a very big news story. As a news reporter, you cover tragedies all the time, every day, but when it does involve a child, it affects people on a whole different level.
And so when the newspaper didn't like the common evils.
Why is that horrible? Can they do that? I mean, is it legal for them to do that?
This was so out of character, so different from what you would expect of someone who's in your home. And we were there.
You left me when you left Kelly? I love you. I won't let you.
We were in the middle of a full-on investigation, trying to learn everything that we could. So according to Laura Day, she took Taylor to the McDonald's, got him a Happy Meal, and they were headed to the beach, but they had to stop off at her home first because this was Taylor's idea. So she needed to get towels. One of the things that bothered us both very much were the contents of the vehicle.
They found Taylor's underwear inside of his pants, which means Taylor changed into his bathing suit in the car.
What was she up to?
Why would Taylor change in the back of the car? She didn't change in the car. Why wouldn't he go into the home and put on a swimsuit?
Laura's attorney would later argue that Taylor simply stayed in the car and finished his Happy Meal while Laura went inside the house.
Laura Day had told Detective Penny and Elsie that it was Taylor's idea to go to the beach that day. It was very important to her story that it was never her idea. It was always Taylor's idea. We started listening to personal calls that she was making from the Nueces County jail. And she says something like, we never even went to the house that day.
We never even went to the house.
And it just clicked. It clicked at that moment. That matched the evidence. That was huge because at that point we knew that almost every bit of the story that she initially told to anyone who would listen was a lie. This was always her idea. It was never Taylor's idea.
In January 2013, Laura is charged with capital murder in addition to child endangerment.
It suggests to me that in order to be charged with capital murder, Laura would have had to plan what happened at the beach that day. For me, it was hard to accept that this wasn't just an act of desperation that came about in the moment, but that was me.
While the prosecution continues to build their case, investigators are contacted by a drowning expert.
So since 1989, I've been looking at body found in water cases and have reviewed well over 3,000 cases. The cases I've worked, well over half of them started off as accidents, suicides, or undetermined.
Detectives and myself and Andrew Ferris all went out to the area in order to check the conditions and just kind of look at the beach, and wanted Andrew Ferris to have seen it in person because she was going to testify at trial.
She looked at NOAA's information regarding the water conditions that day.
It was a longshore current. Because that's the currents that pull you sideways are a longshore current.
Looks like you got stuck under or something. How far do you think you got?
50 yards. That's 150 feet.
When Laura Day stated that Taylor Steering's body sunk and then popped up 15 yards to the right, probably that was the wrong direction. Based on the conditions and the wind and everything else that day, it would have gone left and not right.
She said things that just, how did that happen? It didn't make sense they happened at all.
The medical examiner said that children don't float, that they sink.
It is highly improbable that she would have been able to locate him quickly unless she was right next to him. Everything was all lies.
A trial date is set for June 5th, 2013. And then she finally goes on trial for murdering your son.
Yes.
What was that like?
I was just so caught up. Everything that we had going on to really stop and think.
I remember putting all my faith in God. Let God deal with it. Walking into a trial in a case like this, it's nerve-wracking. Knowing how dangerous she was. It was important to go into that courtroom and make sure that she didn't kill a third person.
The case against Laura Day isn't just about what happened to Taylor Sherry back in October. It's about whether any reasonable person would have done more to save him or not allowed him to be in the water by himself in the first place.
She left me there while she decided she was going to lay out on a towel on the beach. And the evidence will show that any reasonable person would have expected Taylor Sherry's life to be in imminent danger at that moment. Left approximately 100 feet from the shore by himself in the Gulf of Mexico.
While her attorney acknowledged in his opening statements that mistakes were made, he said she pulled him out of the water, did what she could at the beach, then went straight to the emergency room.
So we had a 6-day trial.
This teeny tiny little wet life jacket. I wanted to make sure that this jury understood this was not an accident.
The evidence was presented.
This was an intentional act, and the jury needed to see that. The jury needed to see what really happened.
Jury considered it, and she was convicted of first-degree capital murder in the state of Texas.
Oh, it was. Oh, they were in Texas. Okay. Laura, you did it on purpose.